And the message that comes through, and it's a brilliant message because when we're there in the museum, and I'm not sure if I even have it on my slides, but when you approach this total masterful statue, whoops, no, that's not what I want, damn it. I'm telling you, it hates me. Okay, oh, here we go. You see how Horus represents the return to the source, the return to the light. And so here you have the falcon, the Horus falcon, assimilated into the head of the consciousness of the pharaoh, and with his wings spread down here. Now, if you come at this statue from the front, the way you would approach it, you don't actually see the falcon there. You have to go around the side to see that there's a falcon. And what the message is, the unspoken message is, that the divinized or enlightened man or woman doesn't look any different from anyone else. It's only when you go around to the side that you see the falcon of enlightenment is there. So this is an important lesson, and we see lots of those kinds of lessons in Egypt. Now we get into, originally, this is why I need lots of time. The idea was once we just got some money together and decided to go over and make a film of our work, one of the things that we had to counter was that in the 80s, well, since the early 20th century, the Sphinx it's been believed that the Sphinx, the face of the Sphinx represents the face of Khafra. We just saw the face of Khafra in that great statue. And here, so what I originally wanted to do, we were making a video, and the loyal opposition in the form of Mark Lehner and a couple of the other guys, but Mark especially, in the middle 80s, he did a kind of an early computer study. It wasn't very sophisticated because the computers weren't that sophisticated, but he did a computer study he kind of took the measures, or he took the actual, the Khafra head that's in the museum, the one that we just saw, and then he plunked it on top of the body of the Sphinx and said, aha, it looks like Khafra after all. Well, this is not very sound science, but this got a lot of press. New York Times, Smithsonian Magazine, National Geographic, all of these things. Normally, I wouldn't have felt it necessary to repudiate that connection, but because it was so well known, we felt we had to do something. So I had the idea of using exactly that same technique, but plunking down the head of Elvis on top of the Sphinx and proving that the Sphinx was really Elvis. Everybody was in favor of this idea, except the Elvis Foundation. There is such a thing. They wouldn't let us use Elvis's figure. Elvis would be turning over in his grave. He'd love to be the Sphinx. So next best, immediately my partner in this came up with the idea of bringing in a forensic artist to do comparative studies of the head, which is, the Elvis connection is a great joke, but it isn't exactly science. But getting a forensic artist to compare the heads is. So no time flat, we had Frank Domingo as the senior forensic detective for the NYPD to come and do these studies, which took a long time. You'd think they look simple. There were days of standing on trucks to get exactly the right angle so he could get the things together. And here you see what's obvious to anybody looking at the statue of Khafra, that these two figures are completely different, even though even though the face has been severely disfigured of the Sphinx itself, you have these reference points, these angles, which are drastically different in the actual statue of Khafra. Domingo's conclusion was that under no circumstances whatsoever could competent sculptors create the Sphinx and the Khafra image out of the same human being. And my criminal partner, who without him, the whole thing never would have happened, but he stole $150,000 from the till so we could never carry on our work. Anyway, that's another long story, not for now. And he had a really great line when he got this news from Frank Domingo. He said, boy, he said, this is, for the academics, this is bad news and worse news. The bad news is that there was an Atlantis, and the worst news is that they were black. And an interesting sidelight to that is that after we got Frank Domingo's work, in the, I forget when it was exactly, 93 was the video, 95, no, even earlier, it's late 80s, somewhere along the line. I had an op-ed piece to do for the New York Times, and I carefully left out that sub-Saharan African connection because the Egyptians are as prejudiced as everyone else, and the last thing they want to know is that the Sphinx comes from deep into the middle of Africa. So I left that out. But about 3 weeks later, the Times printed a letter from an orthodontist, a Massachusetts orthodontist. It's another kind of expert in physiognomy, an expert in faces, who said, hey, didn't anybody notice that the Sphinx is a sub-Saharan African? So it's not me saying it anymore, it's somebody else. Anyway, so let us continue.